So it's day 3 of the SLC 2012. Today's agenda includes Society by Size meetings led by PCRs, and then Society by Size meetings led by the Outstanding Society Award winners from last year. Attendees will have lunch together in a plenary session where the CFA Institute Pete Morley Award for Service will be awarded. Spoiler alert, well, not really, since you're probably listening after the fact, but Emilio Gonzalez is this award winner. After the award presentation, we will have a lunchtime speaker. And then in the afternoon, there's time set aside for strategic consultation with PCRs, SRRs, staff exhibitors, and prep course exhibitors. We'll have breakouts after that based on volunteer roles, and then a closing plenary session for the day on challenging industry norms. Let's see if we can hear from individuals from these sessions and try to get some of the highlights, key takeaways, and best ideas from most of them. I'm talking with Irene Sang. She was in the in-depth forum earlier this morning that was led by Edmonton. Irene, what can some of the societies learn from the Edmonton Society?
Well, I think they have see actually the power of collaboration effort between two societies. Take the example that they invited a very famous speaker, Mark Faber, to their forecast dinner. So the two societies share the course and resources for the say like the speaker course, and also a lot of different event logistics and the resources. And secondly, they also have shared administrator, which help to share the best practice in between societies. What did well in Edmonton can set up a good examples which can be shared with Saskatchewan.
Great, thanks. I'm talking to Dan Fasciano and Arthur Thompson, our PCRs. We've just come out of a couple meetings by size meetings. Have you guys had were these interesting meetings for you both?
Yes, we had some very interesting meetings, a lively discussion about it as well, and various issues came up, such as how to finance societies, whether we should make dues mandatory or not, and what the implications of this would be, and also the relationship of societies to CFA Institute as well.
How about you, Dan?
So in the extra large society room, the real takeaway for me was segmenting membership and really targeting programming and events around certain market segments. In other words, what are we doing for newer members? What are we doing for more seasoned members? And I think there's going to be a lot more to build on that.
Great, thanks, guys. Talking now with Aaron Brown, a PCR from our Canadian region, also just out of the Society by Size meetings. I know you guys were discussing some of the membership transparency issues and maybe some other topics. What did you hear in the meeting?
Well, I think that there are a number of different very good ideas in terms of how to move forward on this. Looking at alternatives in terms of a lot of details, but I think it's more fundamentally there's a question about how our societies interact with the Institute, what that relationship looks like, and whether this disclosure issue is more of a revenue, and does it speak to a bigger ideal about do our societies deliver value, some esoteric value to members that's not reflected necessarily in the division between the Institute and the societies, and how the relationship is much more tied, much more linked, and much harder to say, well, this is a society responsibility and this is this is an Institute responsibility. And the other thing too is there's a lot of forward-looking people on what the governance should look like going forward, and I think it was a really good discussion. And this is not something maybe around the membership disclosure will get settled quickly, but in terms of the bigger picture relationships, it's something that we need to talk about going forward.
Great, thank you. I'm talking to Lauren McAdams and Matt White. You guys just came out of the Society by Size led by Society Award winners. So what are some of the ideas that you heard in your sessions?
Thanks, Julia. I was talking to Vancouver, who was the winner for the 600 plus member category, and they're talking about an event they're going to focus on attracting clients. So they're trying to get 50% non-members to come out to this event, and different ways they targeted their outreach and segmented their member population information to get to these clients. So it's a really forward-thinking, great idea, and they solicited some feedback from the group, and I think society's learned a lot.
Great. How about you, Matt?
Well, our session was actually led by the Czech Society, and rather than give a full presentation the whole time, they actually turned it on to the participants of the meeting. And one of the biggest things that came out was just try something completely out of the blue. Go with a new idea that, if it fails, but at least you tried. And there were a lot of societies that had great ideas for, wine tasting events and golfing events and certain things like that usually you don't think about when you're in a board meeting. And so it's really about coming up with fresh ideas that aren't just status quo.
Great. Thanks, guys. Talking with Liz DeFreitas, one of our SRRs. She just has come out of the societies under 100 members, led by the Society Award winner from last year, the Hawaii Society. What are some of the ideas that society leaders can learn from the Hawaii Society?
I think 3 of the best ideas that CFA Society Hawaii presented today, one was their advisory board. They have some really big name representation on their advisory board, and they're basically micro volunteers. They use them to expose the society and really showcase what the society can do, and they are able to attend their events for free, so it's a two-way mutual street for the benefits of that. The other would be the exam day lunches. They go to the exam site and they provide a free lunch. They have some Advil. That way the candidates can meet them and they don't have to worry about going off-site for lunch. And then the third was really using and implementing the ideas from the SLC. Over the past couple of years, they've really had some great ideas that they heard from other societies, and they spoke to it. They said, I learned from this society, and this is our new operating model. I learned from this society, and this is the advisory committee. So they really take and implement the ideas that they learn at the SLC.
Thank you so much. I'm speaking with Joanna Kwok, the Society Relations Director from our Asia Pacific region. Joanna, what were your impressions of the lunchtime presentation?
Well, actually, I don't know much about Hong Kong until Franklin told me about Hong Kong. I'm so impressed. Wow, we achieved a lot. We have so much number one or great results. So I have a different feeling about Hong Kong now. And I hope other attendees have the good impression of Hong Kong, not only on the food, not only on the shopping, but really know something, a different aspect of Hong Kong. And do let me know if any people want to know about Hong Kong. I'll check with Franklin for more data. Yeah, and I hope people like it and come more to Hong Kong and visit our office too.
Yeah, put a visit in. Great, thank you so much.
Thanks.
With Lauren McAdams now, one of the SRRs, and during the day today we set aside some time for some strategic consultations. Lauren, what would you say was maybe the best idea that came out of the time you had?
In speaking with some of the society leaders with more than 250 members in the Americas, they really built on some of the ideas they talked about previously, and probably the best thing that they came up with is looking to universities as a source of interns to help them with activities such as public awareness. So I thought that was a great idea.
Great, thanks. Here with Rafael Matallana, the Latin America Relationship Manager. Rafael, you just came out of a meeting with the leaders from the Latin America societies, and you were, it was a planning session for FY13. What are some of the key takeaways?
Thank you, Julia. Thank you again for the opportunity. Yeah, a couple of key takeaways is we're going to continue with a very focused and sharper plan for the region, and we have to continue, and we will continue partnering with our volunteers, our leadership in Latin America in order to bring CFA Institute's mission to the region, which is going to be based, as we know, on the 4 E's, ethics, education, engagement, and enablers that define our global strategy.
Great, thanks. Here with Sarah, one of our SRRs from the EMEA region. So you were just in the President's breakout session. What is, let's say, one of the best ideas you heard there?
So we had 6 facilitators on a roundtable discussion, and so each of the groups had to come up with ideas and outreach efforts that they'd produced over the year. And one which stuck out particularly to me is a lot of the societies are now having advisory boards, not necessarily CFA members, but people who are at the top of their profession, and so they can advise the society, and they have a lot of knowledge in the industry as well, and they're finding that's really helping with the structure of their board, so they can provide them with governance, industry information, and just their general experience over the years.
Great, thanks. With Dan Pasciano, PCR from the Eastern region. You were just in the breakout session with the VPs and the past presidents. Were there any really great takeaways?
Yeah, there were actually two that were illuminated. And number one was, as an incoming president, a lot of past presidents said, delegate early and make sure that people are really assigned and tasked with some deliverables. And the other thing is, a lot of presidents will start in July, really use the summer not as downtime, but to hit the ground running, so that by the time September rolls around, you really get your agenda in place and everybody's working hard.
Thanks. With Layla Qasim, our PCR from the Midwest region. Layla, you were just in the breakout session with the society treasurers and secretaries. What were some of the topics discussed there?
Well, some of the topics we discussed were what were the components of each society's budget, how do they derive their revenue each year, and then what the reserve policies are, how much of their operating budget do they keep in reserve, and then if they do have a substantial reserve, what type of an investment policy do they have for their society.
Great, thanks. With Liz DeFreitas, one of our SRRs. Liz, you were in the breakout session with the board members. What was, let's say, one of the best things you heard in that session?
One of the best ideas that I heard was doing a board orientation, to do it early in the season, to host it mainly for the new incoming board members to level the playing field. You can go over the bylaws and the board structure and the different task force and have a document for them, and it's also a venue for them to meet the current board members. This is a great idea and a great practice that would be something easy to implement.
Thanks so much. With Jeannie Wolf, the Executive Director at BSAS, you were just in the breakout session with the staff administrators. What are some of the things that were discussed there?
It was a great session. We had a group of the local staff from the societies, and we all have some common issues, and which is what made it a great conversation. One of the things is our technology platform. I think everybody's struggling to figure out what the best technology to use is, and we're excited that CFA Institute is working on a technology plan, and I think it's going to benefit all societies. Another discussion point is the board-staff relationship, and when does a staff member move into serving the board members more, and when are they just a staff member? And I think trying to figure out that line is something everybody's looking at. And social media is a hot topic right now, trying to figure out what we should be doing and what's the right platform, and how do you get people engaged in social media and keep it relevant and keep it fresh. And none of us had all the answers, but it was certainly a great conversation, and I think a lot of ideas shared, and we're hoping to continue that at future meetings, and we're hoping that we'll be able to meet as staffed offices more often than once a year.
Great, thank you so much. So Valerie, what did you take away from the staffed office meeting?
Well, actually, we have these meetings regularly, and I've always find that so useful to meet face to face with each other, and we have so much to learn from each other, and we can exchange. Finally, we do talk regularly with emails, but a face to face meeting really is useful and productive. We would like to have more.
Thanks. Well, with that, we will wrap up the highlights and summary from today's sessions. This evening, the attendees will be heading up to Victoria Peak for an evening reception. But we'll have more tomorrow, so we'll be back to summarize the last day of content then. Take care.